You might see a news headline, "Fisherman Arrested," and just scroll past it. But what if I told you that headline is just the tip of the iceberg? It's hiding a much deeper story, a conflict that's been simmering for decades right under the waves between India and Sri Lanka. Okay, let's dive into what's really going on in the Palk Bay. So, what kicked this all off most recently? Well, on November 9th, the Sri Lankan Navy arrested these 14 fishermen from Tamil Nadu. The charge? Crossing the maritime border into Sri Lankan waters. And that's where you have to ask the big question. Is this just another isolated incident? A simple case of straying too far? Or is it a flare-up of something much, much deeper? A sign of a painful, ongoing dispute that's affecting thousands of lives. To really get the full picture here, we have to look at this latest event not as a starting point, but as just another chapter in a really long and difficult story. You see, incidents like this are tragically common here. They're all part of this painful legacy of the Palk Bay dispute, an issue that for years, India and Sri Lanka have just struggled to resolve. And all the while, the livelihoods of fishing communities on both sides are just hanging in the balance. And the scale of this problem is, well, it's pretty staggering. Right now, as of this year, a total of 128 fishermen from Tamil Nadu are being held in Sri Lankan custody. So this isn't just about one event. It's a chronic, complicated crisis that just keeps repeating itself. So why does this keep happening? To really get to the bottom of it, we need to understand the history and the geography of this really unique and very contested stretch of water. The entire conflict it revolves around this invisible line in the water, the International Maritime Boundary Line, or IMBL for short. Now, it was drawn up to separate the two countries' waters, which sounds simple enough, but for fishermen who've worked these seas for generations, that line is a source of constant, unending tension. And this is where it gets so complex, because you have two completely different realities coexisting in the very same place. On one side, you've got the Tamil Nadu fishermen. They feel like they're being pushed to cross that boundary. Why? Because the fish stocks on their side are dwindling, and these high-yield voyages are becoming an economic necessity for them to survive. But then on the other side of the strait, you have Sri Lanka's northern fishermen. Many are still trying to rebuild their lives after a brutal civil war, and they depend entirely on these marine resources. So to them, these big Indian boats, they don't just feel like competition. They feel like a destructive invasion. And that right there brings us to the very heart of the conflict, because it's not just about where the boats are fishing, it's about how they're fishing. The core issue, the thing that causes so much anger, is a specific method called bottom trawling. So what in the world is bottom trawling? Well, picture this. It's an industrial technique where a huge weighted net is literally dragged along the bottom of the ocean. It just scrapes and scoops up everything in its path. Now, it's incredibly efficient at catching fish, sure, but that efficiency comes at a massive cost. The damage is just immense. As you can see, bottom trawling doesn't just catch fish, it pulverizes fragile coral beds. It completely destroys shrimp habitats. And of course, doing that severely depletes the fish stocks for everyone. But the destruction doesn't even stop there. On top of all this environmental devastation, these huge trawlers often wreck the smaller nets and boats of the local Sri Lankan fishermen, destroying their equipment and taking away their very livelihood. With a practice that destructive right at the center of the conflict, the obvious question is, what can actually be done? So let's take a look at some of the solutions that are on the table. Now, there have been some recent attempts to talk this out. Back in March, fishermen leaders from both sides actually met informally, which was a great first step. Then, in late October, the official joint working group met in Colombo. But here's the thing. While talks are happening, a clear, decisive action plan hasn't really emerged yet. And the new government in Sri Lanka has signaled a tougher stance, but hasn't made a big move yet. So what would a real solution look like? Well, experts suggest it has to be this comprehensive, multi-step approach. It's not one silver bullet. It starts with science, setting up a joint research station to actually understand the health of the Palk Bay. From there, you can set up fair fishing quotas to let the fish stocks recover. And here's the crucial part, providing real financial support to help Tamil Nadu fishermen transition to more sustainable, deep-sea fishing, moving them away from this contested area. And the final, absolutely essential goal, a gradual but complete ban on bottom trawling in the entire region. Ultimately, what all of this points to is the need for a fundamental shift in mindset. It's about moving away from the short-term, exploitative way of thinking to a long-term, sustainable one.
You know, the source material for this explainer really nails it with this quote. It says, "Peace in the Palk Strait demands ecological responsibility, bilateral coordination, and transforming fishing practices from exploitation to sustainability." See, this isn't just a political problem, it's an ecological one. Lasting peace here isn't going to come from more arrests or tougher patrols. It's going to come from a shared commitment to a healthy ocean.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This region has been defined by conflict for decades, but with the right steps, it has the potential to become something totally different, a shared resource, managed responsibly by both nations. The big question is whether the political will actually exists to make that change happen.